Welcome to another episode of the Wholesale Elite Podcast. I am Isham joined by my main man, co-host, Mr. Tanner Santucci.
What's going on? What's going on?
Man, living the dream, bro. Guys, today we've got a good one. All the way from sunny Southern California, Mr. Jayden Smith is joining us. Jayden, what's going on, dude?
Woo! I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, bro. Excited to have you. So just a little quick information. We don't know Jayden too much, so this is going to be an awesome discovery podcast. I was super impressed when I first met him. We were a part of or I was actually asked to join into kind of a calling group that they were doing where they were, making cold calls and just kind of a deal where everyone was streaming at the same time. And the synergy there was just incredible. You could see that people were learning from one another. And Jayden had his mic unmuted and I heard him having his Asian outreach conversations. I'm like, man, this guy, like, he's got the confidence, he's got the skill, he's got everything. Like, I had so many questions for him. So I reached out and said, hey, man, love to have you on the show. And Jayden's like, dude, I'd love to be on the show, but I got a whole bunch of deals going on right now. So let me wrap these deals up and we'll get on the show. And I was like, man, even better. I can't wait to hear about him. So Jayden, bro, man, we're excited to have you. And I'd love to just get started a little bit knowing about, your background, where you come from and how'd you get into real estate?
Yeah. So, I started off right out of high school. So I actually graduated when COVID first hit. So it was March and all of a sudden, it was probably a Thursday and COVID was just starting. And then they were there was rumors of hey, you guys may not have school next week. You guys are gonna we'll have a week and then you'll go on a spring break and come back. And everyone's obviously excited. Senior year, we're bet 2 weeks off. That's
right.
Awesome. And so then it's Thursday, everyone's saying bye to each other. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We go on break and then there's talks of hey, it's actually going to be 3 weeks. Actually, it's going to be 4 weeks. Actually, it's another month. And, we may not graduate. Who knows? So ended up going through, we did a drive graduation. You drive in, you hop out the car, get your diploma, smile, and you get back in the car, You drive off. And so never saw any of the classmates again. But it's cool. And then from there, I was playing soccer at the time. I was going to go to a local college and play soccer there. And then I had met someone who I was playing soccer with. It was a quick 5v5 league. And I remember he had a nice car. And I remember talking to his brother and he's like, oh yeah, he makes a lot of money. He makes 30,000 one month. And the next month, he'll blow it all, and then he'll make 30,000 next month. And I say, what does this guy do? That's crazy. So as time went on, I got to know him more. And he's like, hey, I'm actually hiring. Would you want to work with me? And I was like, yeah. At the time, I was looking for a job. I was just out of high school, so didn't have any money. My parents were kind of hey, are you gonna get a job soon? And so I was like, yeah, it'll come. I'm not I was just waiting, right? So this opportunity came up. I was so excited, right? He's like, oh yeah, it's my own business. It's super cool. So I go start learning, come to find out it's wholesaling. And so I'm cold calling sellers for 6-7 hours a day. And it's rough, obviously, with sellers and them cussing you out and all the things, especially when you get first started, because I have no idea what I'm talking about. Hey,
sure.
Do you want to sell your house? They're like, how much? I'm like, I don't know. I'll call you back. So it was rough, but I learned, I really liked it. And I feel with whatever I do, I want to be the best at it. And so there's a few other people in as well, cold calling. And so I was just learning, watching Wholesale Hotline, all the podcasts, everything, reading negotiation books, how can I become the best cold caller out of these people? And so just learning, soaking all the information. And I was honestly becoming pretty good. I got 3 deals, and I was supposed to be making 10%. I didn't get paid. The guy didn't pay me. So I left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he owed me 7,000, I believe.
So you closed 3 deals with this person and they didn't pay you your cut?
Yeah. So it was a long journey and he kept saying hey, so for example, it's supposed to close in January. or December. And he kept saying like, oh, they extended the escrow. And I didn't know because I didn't handle that part of it. I just kind of did the introductory, the follow-ups, and then he would get on the phone and get the contract and everything. And so he was just kind of like saying it kept getting long, like extended and all these things. So a few months go by and I'm like, dang, like, I don't know. I'm supposed to be getting paid soon, but I don't know when it's going to happen. I end up getting really close with the TC. And we're like friends, and she was like, hey, I know you've been waiting on a deal. Like, what deal was it? I told her the address, and she looked it up. She's like, that deal closed 4 months back. And I was like, wow. So come to find out, whatever, I think he like gambled it away or something. But I left, and I was like, okay, I really enjoy it. I learned a lot, and I feel like I can do it on my own. So I started just learning YouTube University, just doing everything I can. At the time, it was direct to seller, so it's expensive, and I was doing I was probably spending about 1,000 per month, and I don't know how because I didn't have a job, so I was just picking up. So I was door dashing, like doing whatever I can to make the money and keep going. And I was very inconsistent because of that. So like I would have to stop for a week or two and start like making money and then go back. And so there's a lot of inconsistency, which is huge in it. And so eventually, around July, I started saving up since like May, saved up enough for the course, the Astro course, and then joined in July. And then from there, actually, I just closed my first 3 deals last week.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's go back to, and I don't want to beat a dead horse too much, but let's go back to this person who, kind of messed you over or whatever. And we don't have to dive into that, but I feel like most people would have quit at that point. What kept you in the game?
I felt that the only way that you can fail is if you quit. And so I was like, look, if I keep going at this, whether it takes 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, like the only way really you can classify something as a failure is if you quit because you're done and okay, it's failed. But if I were to keep going, like now, no one's going to look at that 2 years back and say, oh, this guy failed, but now he's closing right. You know what I mean? Like that's not how it works. Like if you keep going and then you finally find success, no one's going to look at your past. They're going to look at your success now. So that was my mindset. Like, hey, if I quit, that's the only way I can fail. And I know I'm going to make it. And so that's what my mindset was going into it.
What have you done in your life, or what influences have you had that have helped you at this young age acquire that mindset?
I think it was soccer. It was a big part of it. I was very self-driven. Again, like this mindset, I don't know where exactly it stemmed from, but just wanting to be the best. Like on my soccer teams, I wanted to be the best player on the team. I would do the extra to be the best. I would practice after practice, come home and juggle the soccer ball in my garage for 2-3 hours after practice. I would go on runs by myself, 1 mile, 2 miles. And that was also driving, like going on the run and being tired and like legs hurting and not wanting to finish, but like knowing the feeling after you finish the run is like such a relief and such a, like, it's like a runner's high. Like that feeling like pushed me. So I think a lot of it stemmed from soccer because that's all I did my whole life.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like team sports are a big thing that help, younger people, develop the habits of sticking with something, and staying consistent and pushing through the pain. And so I commend you for doing that. Okay, so no success. You've locked up 3 deals. They didn't pay out. They played through, but they didn't pay out. And then May, you decide to get serious, and then July you joined Astro. What happened after you joined Astro?
So joined Astro, first week of the course, the mindset changed. I always thought like I had a pretty good mindset, but it just changed it, right? And so that happened, and before that, I was switching marketing methods like crazy when I was doing it by myself. I was everything you can think of, right? SMS, sellers, agents, anything. Because I was like, I'm gonna find success. I just don't know which way yet. So I was just doing everything if I didn't see it, and I saw it working for other people. So August comes, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start taking actions. July, I was just kind of watching the course. August comes, and I'm like, hey, I have like 100 agents in my system. That I talked to in February because I was doing this in February. So I start calling all of them and I'm like, hey, it's Jayden. I know you probably forgot who I am. I talked to you about 6 months ago. I was in and out of country because I left to Brazil twice. I went to Belize. So I was like, hey, I'm back now. I'm ready for more deals. So I just started calling everyone on the list that I've already talked to. And then one time, randomly, I just get a text. I don't even think she answered. I get a text, and it's just two properties. She's like, hey, where would you be on these? I'm like, oh, cool, like the first ones. So I go to a few people, a few Keegleys, trying to get like the best idea of where where I should lock it up at, because these ones I'm not bad at comping, but these ones were a little bit different. So I get like 4 or 5 different answers, and they're all like, hey, if you can lock them up at this price point, you'll be able to move them, no problem. So I go walk the property before I even lock it up, because they're off market, and the agent was like, well, let's go see it first. So I go out there, they're in Riverside, not too far from me, and I go, and then I come back with the offer price, and they accept it. And so I'm like, let's go. And so this is where, this is I told you I was waiting on these deals to close. These are the 2 crazy deals. They always say your first deals are the hardest, and this one was crazy. So I get them on a contract at where everyone says you can move them. So I believe it was like one at 400, one at 425. And they're right next to each other, owned by the same owner. And everyone's like, yeah, if you can lock one up at like 425, you can sell it for like 450. The other one, 400, you can sell it for like 425, 430. So there's a good amount of room in there. I go partner with the Keegley, and I bring them the deals. They're like, okay, perfect. We'll send them out. Time goes by, and inspection period's almost over. So I'm like, hey, and we still don't have a buyer. So I go back to the agents, and we extend the escrow. More time goes by. There's a lot of cancellation inspections. Buyers don't show up to inspections. So I've gone to the property multiple times without buyers. So now we're supposed to close in 3 days. It's Thursday. We're supposed to close on Monday. The sellers are moving. You can see them packed up. You can see all this stuff. They're moving to Arizona. And so I get there the last time we go out there, with no buyers there. And the agent, she's like, hey, like, we're counting on you. We're so thankful that you were able to bring people to the table. And I'm sitting there knowing we don't have buyers, like, yeah, knowing we're supposed to close on Monday. And so I get home, and the Keegley guy calls me, and he's like, hey, we don't have anyone for this one. Like, we're just gonna have to move on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like everyone's counting on me. Like, the sellers are moving. And so I was like, okay. So I hang up the phone, and I start making a ton of calls. And I'm like, I posted on a Facebook group. I need someone to help me out. Like, we need to bring a buyer to the table quick. I connect with someone that I met at a SoCal meetup, and he's like, hey, I may have the perfect buyer for this one. And so I'm like, perfect. So he gets me a response pretty quickly that night. And the guy's interested, but he's at a lower price. He's at like 410 and 390. And so I'm like, okay. And so I end up, while I'm making all these calls, I connect with someone else, a part of Kiwi from a different franchise. And he coaches me through, like, okay, what's the situation? Let's look at it. Let's start from the beginning. Let's comp it out, and walks me through the whole process again. And he's like, well, look, at this part, he should have told you that you guys are too high and you guys weren't getting buyers. Like, why didn't he ever bring a price reduction to you? Like, what's going on here?
Sure.
I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Why didn't he tell me about, like, we needed it lower before the inspection?
Yeah,
like,
you're right. Why didn't he do that? Screw that
guy. So I'm like, okay. So he walks me through how to talk to the agent, break it down to them, and basically break down the bad news and let them know, like, where we need to be at and get a price reduction. So we go over, like, strategizing everything. I called the agent the next day. At this point, like, there's so much, I felt so much emotion involved. Like, the sellers are moving, the agents are counting on me. This agent's a top broker in California, and she's super cool. And I know, like, if obviously with agents, like, if you can close a deal with them, like, and they like you, like, they'll bring you more business. So I was like, I honestly don't care if I make any money. I just want to close the deal and make sure everyone's happy. Like, I don't know why there was so much emotion involved with it, but that's what I told the other guy I met. He's a dispo agent or a dispo wholesaler. He brought the buyer. So we go, I talk to the agents. She's upset, of course, and was like, we're supposed to be closing on Monday. Like, this is unacceptable. I can't believe it. And then I calm her down, and I'm like, look, I feel you. Like, I understand this is what you're feeling. I felt that before. And this is what I found. I found that if we are just stay the course and no one gives up, we're gonna be able to get this to the finish line. And so that calms her down, and she's like, okay. So she goes to the listing agent, and which is her. She's the broker, and it's her listing agent, who's like one of her top producers. And she tells her they agree to the price drop, and so we're good. The guy can close. He said he can close in 14 days. We're good to go. He actually needed 21 days, so I go back to her, let her know. She's like, okay, fine. Everything's going smoothly. The guy goes and sees the property. He loves it. He loves everything about it. And it's like the 20th day. We're supposed to be closing. The docs are in, and all we're waiting is for the buyer to send in his portion, and then it'll get funded. No one hears from the buyer that day. We're like, what's going on? No one hears from them. Sellers are freaking out. Sellers' families freaking out. And
they're already packed up, right? At this point,
packed up,
sleeping
and
on the floor.
It even worse, so yes, to make it even worse, as soon as they got the loan docs back, the listing agent's like, "Hey, you guys are good to go. We're gonna close tomorrow. You guys can start heading to Arizona." So they're in Arizona. They have to sleep in the U-Haul overnight because no one hears from the buyer that day when it's supposed to close. No. And we're like, "Oh my gosh, like what's going on?" I'm getting blown up from the agents, like, what's going on? Where's the buyer? Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm calling him, no answer, texting him, no answer. Later that night, I get a text, and he's like, hey, sorry, there's an emergency. We'll wire the funds tomorrow at 12. I'm like, okay. I call the agents, let them know. And so cool. So next day comes, and I wake up in the morning. First thing I do is text them, hey, are we still on track? Don't answer. And so finally about 11, he answered. He's like, hey, yep, we're still on track to close at 12. I'm like, okay, cool. I text him at 11:45. Hey, how's it looking? Nothing. 12, nothing. 12:30, nothing. Don't hear from him again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's no way this is happening again. 12:30. So now, so obviously the sellers that their property that they're buying in Arizona, they're waiting for it to close so that they can sell theirs and move. So like, it's like a whole chain of things that's waiting on this transaction. So I don't hear from him. Later that night, I finally hear from him again, and he's like, hey, sorry, there's an emergency. Like we don't have the funds to pay for our part yet. And like, can we get till next Thursday? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I call the agents, I tell them, and she's like, yes, that's fine. But as long as he can provide us with the proof of funds, like, obviously, the funds are coming from somewhere, and they'll be there by next Thursday. So if he can provide that for us, whether he's closing on another property or like he sold something or like whatever, and it's going to be there Thursday, let's do it. Let's just get this done. So I call him back. He's like, okay. Next morning comes, he texts me, hey, please proceed with the cancellation. I'm like, what? There's no way. So,
holy shit.
So I call the agent.
Dude, my anxiety is like,
I know, like, I'm
right
like,
now. I don't know how you were handling this.
It's like a horror film, dude.
Halloween's
already passed, man. Come on now.
And then I called the agents, and they're like, oh my gosh. And so she happened to be walking in the room as the listing agent. So they're both on the phone, like on speaker. And she's like, oh, well, I assume you don't have anyone else interested. Like you didn't have any more buyers. And I was like, well, I might have someone. And she's like, okay, like let's do it. Like we don't want these properties sitting vacant. They're in Arizona. Like we're gonna have to hire security so no one breaks in. Like all this stuff. The pools, like we want it to go bad. Like we need to get this done as soon as possible. And so I'm like, okay, yeah. Like as long as the agents are on my side, like and still want it. Like I was so scared that the agents would never want to work with me again. But they were like on my side, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And like before I hang up the phone, the broker that's representing me, she's like, wait, Jaden, like before you go, like I had this feeling like we're just gonna get this done. Like I was in a bad mood the last few days because of what's going on, but like I just woke up in a better mood, and I know we're gonna work something out. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So I called back the guy who was Dispo Wholesale again. I'm like, hey, we're still on. I know this guy left, the buyer's done, but we need to find another buyer who's cash and can actually close, doesn't need a hard money loan. So we get someone again way lower than where we're at now. Now he's coming in at like 390, and I think he was at 390 and 400. Oh no, he was at 390 and like 360. And so we were under contract at 390 and 400. So now I have to go back and get another price reduction. I come in at 350 and 360, and then they accept, and then we get the guy in. He loves it, and he closes 7 days later. Cash.
Whew.
Yeah, it was
Holy
a
hell.
lot.
Wow, so much to unpack there. I mean, that's incredible that you stuck in there, one, and that your agent was, patient and cool there, and that everything worked in the end. And let me ask you, and then we'll go into more of that, but what were some of the lessons that you learned from that experience that you took into the future? Like, man, I'm never going to do this again, or man, I'm going to look out for that. What did you get out of all that?
Yeah, there was a lot to get out of it. There was one, like, if I don't have a buyer by the third day of inspection, like that's when there should be a lot of red flags and either talks of a price reduction or cancellation, like whatever it may be. So third day, like there's a lot, because this was my first deal, so I didn't know the rest of the transaction, like how it works. So there's a lot, making sure escrow and title is on the same page, and like communicating and replying quickly. And if not, like I have to get on the phone with them and make sure like people aren't waiting on emails, because that was adding more days. I can't think of a lot right now off the top of my head, but communication's very key. Like talking, like whatever it is, like I try to get on the phone with them instead of waiting for a text or email back.
Let me jump in real quick. For anyone who's not watching, for anyone who's listening, Jayden is a young man, right? I'm 40. What am I? 42 now. I would look at you. I would think you're somewhere between 18, 22, whatever. When you showed up at that property, awesome. 20. When you showed up at that property to do the walkthrough, were you concerned at all of, man, these people are going to think I'm young and maybe not take me seriously? Walk us through your mindset around that.
Yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have been more, like not should have been, but like that could have for sure been a thought that I would have had. But not really. Like I talked to the agent, and like I already know, like I sound young. So just on the phone, I think I just had that confidence, and she wanted to meet. And so I was like, I think she already knows I'm young. And so I just kind of dressed the part, like not like super fancy, but like more business casual, and walked in confident, kind of knew what I'm talking about. And, she loved it.
So let me ask this then. It sounds like the agent knew you were wholesaling the whole time. Was that something that came about because of it was getting dragged on? And so you eventually were open with her then, or did she kind of have the idea you were a wholesaler right from the get-go, and you guys had that conversation extremely early? How did that process look?
Yeah, I don't think she knew I was wholesaling it until it started getting dragged out. And so it was more so towards the end, or no, it was in the beginning when we didn't have a buyer yet. When I was working with the original Keegley guy. I don't know if she knew from the beginning, just because of how young I looked. And I was surprised because she was saying how it's like she's a top broker and everything. And I was like, I don't know how she doesn't know I'm wholesaling this, or like what's going on. But my goal is always to be honest with them anyways. So I was going to tell her anyways. And so once it started getting dragged out, we kind of told her, hey, this is what's going on. Because they have to be on the same page. Because if she didn't know that, she's like, what's going on? You're supposed to be closing. Like, it's your fault. And so I told her along the way, and she was super cool with this. She's like, I understand. Like, it happens all the time. I work with that all the time. So she was super cool about it.
Do you still have a relationship with that agent?
Yeah, it's strong. I'm actually glad that all this scenario happened, because our relationship like became so much stronger. And she just brought me 2 other listings the other day and was like, hey, what can you do? So we're working on those now. But it's and she wants to go have lunch. And even I had told her that I got my license, but it's not hung anywhere. And so one of my main concerns was like, I just want to keep this relationship with the agent. And she wants me to work with her under her brokerage. Like, she wants me, like, it's the relationship between me and her is going to go far for sure.
That's phenomenal, bro. I, so I love that you didn't let that thought creep into your head. Like, man, I'm young, I'm inexperienced and whatnot. You went into that meeting with confidence. You didn't even think of the objections. And I can understand for those of us and those of you who are overthinkers, and you may, think of everything that can go wrong before this meeting. I just encourage you to listen to Jaden's story and understand, the big picture. Maybe those thoughts could have crept into his head, but they didn't. And that allowed the situation to play out perfectly, and maybe something would have come up, but still in the end, when you look back through the mess, there's always some sort of a blessing in there. And like Jaden said, had he not have gone through that whole mess, he wouldn't have had such a tight bond with this agent who's now sending him more and more referrals, and he's going to do more deals with this. He was open and honest and came through, and he worked his ass off to pull this off. So kudos to you, man, on being resourceful enough to figure all this out. And I love that in the beginning, before you did this, you took action, and then you went back to the drawing board and learned, and then you went back out and took action. And an old mentor of mine, Jeff Olson, he used to always say there's learned knowledge and there's activity knowledge, and you have to do both. You can't just go all in on one or go all in on the other. You need the balance of both. And so, man, let me ask you this. You did something that was really cool. I don't know if anyone caught this. Any of the sales guys that are listening or watching, it may have picked up on this, but you said when you reached back out to the agent, you said, listen, I know how you feel. Here's what I felt, and here's what I found. That is a classic feel, felt, found scenario that it's, for anyone that's listening that doesn't know that, it's a great way to overcome an objection. So you say, I know how you feel, and you're basically, leveling with that person. You're saying, hey, look, we're on the same page. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. So you bring a little, humility into this thing, and here's what I found. And so where did that come from, man? You felt
so
found.
It actually came from the guy, when I was reaching out and making all those calls, the guy who walked me through and brought everything, made it more clear on what was going on. He walked me through the whole process. And when he was coaching me on how to go and do the price reduction, he told me that. He's like, yes, this is what you do. You say feel, felt, found, and this is how you break it down to her. And so I was like, oh, that's amazing. And so that's where I learned it from.
Incredible, brother. Incredible, brother.
Wait, real quick, how from start to finish on that deal then? Because I'm sitting here as you were talking through it, you're like at 10 days, then 7-day extension, and then 14-day extension, and then we had to wait another 21 days. So how long from the time you pretty much got that deal to the time it closed? Because I was sitting there trying to puzzle it all together.
I believe it was 2 months. I think I got under contract August 20th, and we closed October 25th.
Man, incredible.
It was a long process.
Yeah.
Man, I want to what would you consider your superpower to be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I honestly would say probably being honest with people and building a personal connection, in a sense. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I feel like whenever I'm on the phone with agents, or originally connecting with them, or when they send me a property to look at, I'm able to just be honest with them and not money hungry. I'll call them back. If they send me a deal, I'll call them right back and say, hey, this one doesn't work for me. This is why. This is where I'm looking at. I'm not the best fit for it. But let's stay in touch. Let's keep it. And they love that. I answer quickly, respond back to everything they say. So I feel like it's I don't know the exact word for it, but I feel like that connection there, and it builds the rapport. I stand out more than the other investors who are more so money hungry and just want the deal. If it doesn't work, they don't answer and they leave you on red or whatever. I build that personal connection and call them back and really explain to them why it doesn't work. I take the time to do it because I feel like that's more valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah. In our company, Tanner and I's company, we have kind of a mantra in that it's relationships over the deal, right? So it's always about the relationship way more so than the deal, never about the deal almost. Because if you can build that relationship, the deals will come, and it sounds like that's what you said your superpower is. You're great at building relationships, and not focusing on the outcome. Just hey, we're on the same team here. Let's see how we can help each other.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the greatest lesson that you've learned so far in your real estate endeavors?
I would say the greatest lesson is my faith in God, and throughout the transaction, having that faith there. Like through this whole transaction, this crazy one, I was really just like relying on him. Like whatever happens, it's in your will. Like let it be done. Like if this deal closes, if not, like there's a learning experience here. I learned a ton so far. Like whatever happens. So I think just having that faith and growing that faith, and each moment was a test of it. And so I feel like that was one of the greatest lessons I've learned. It's just like whatever happens, it's fine. There's a lot of, you can either learn from it, or you would profit from it. But whether it goes through or not, or there's a relationship that grows out of it, there's always something to be taken away from it.
That's awesome. Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah. So what would you say then also to new wholesalers that may have heard that story right there, and that's like an oh crap moment, right? Like maybe they don't have the confidence that you do. Maybe they just don't have, that, like I said, that level of confidence, that level of faith, and that kind of stuff. I mean, what's something you could tell someone that after hearing that story, that instead of it being almost like an issue or almost a reason not to get into the business, what's something you would tell them?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to learn a lot through this process. I would say reach out to and connect with as many people as you can, and have them help you, bring you to the next level. Like, don't be worried about splitting the profits or only making a percentage of it. Like, it's better than nothing at the end of the day, and you're learning a ton along the way. So bringing in as many people, like I reached out to as many people as I can, like, hey, I don't even want to make anything. If you make something cool, let's just get this deal closed. So, and you're going to learn a ton. You're make a great connections. You're providing value to other people. So like at the end of the day, like I would say just bring in as many people as you can, and learn from them, and have them help you along the way.
Yeah. I think what you said there is important for everyone to understand, which is, and if you go back to the beginning of your story there for that deal, the first thing you said you pretty much did was reach out to Keegley, reach out to other people, right? Like you didn't try to handle everything right away on your own. You went straight to other people. You knew, hey, there is other people that know what they're doing way more than I do. So like you said, whether I have to split the profits, whether I make $0 on the deal, I want to bring in someone that can help me get this deal done, so that way I can learn and move on from there. And I think that's important for people to really understand, is that even though you're brand new, don't feel like you're on your own. Like you literally went out of your way from the very beginning to reach out to people. And like I said, I think that's a very important lesson. So that's a credit to you for being super resourceful as well.
Yeah, it's a huge key. And that's why also Astro, like the communities, that's why I found the value more in the community than his course. I mean, just because of the stage I was at, like I feel like I kind of knew a lot of it already, but the community is huge, and being able to reach out to people who you can trust, and who like is looking out for your best interest, is not like, hey, like money hungry, like things like that. Like, you can trust these people. They're all along the same mindset as you.
So in the beginning, you said you were kind of all over the place, right? Like most wholesalers are. You tried a little bit of this, try cold calling, switch the list up after a week. And then, all right, I'm going to try SMS. Let's do that. Okay, I listened to a podcast about mailing, and it seems to work. I wonder what this mailing stuff's all about. We all do that. But eventually you settled on agent outreach, it seems. What led to that transition?
Yeah, I think I just, like realize like going direct to sellers is like a one-time transaction, but building a relationship, building win-win scenarios with agents is like something you can build a whole business off of. Like I feel like direct seller, you have to start over after one deal closes, right? But agents, like you can let them represent you. They get paid. They're happy. They want to bring you more deals. Their work, like everyone, it's like a huge team. And I really was attracted to the relationship, and really building a relationship and networking with other people.
Absolutely. 100%. Jamil says, I would much rather, set up nets underneath the banana trees and come around and shake the banana tree every now and again to let the bananas fall versus climbing a banana tree to get my banana and coming back down. It's too much work.
Yeah.
What would you say has been, so, with every pro there's cons. So obviously working with agents, I mean, it just sounds like a massive win-win. These people already have the properties locked up. They could potentially get more commission if they work with you. You can be their inside person where they're just feeding you deals. What's the downside to working with agents versus direct?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a downside. I feel like the downside is some agents may think that they have more experience or know more, and especially if you're newer to the game, it can be scary. Like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to an agent, like they're licensed, which there's not too much of a difference once you actually talk to them.
So
These
true.
guys are normal people, but there's that scare factor. There's people who, I've been in the business for 45 years and I know everything about the market, and this property is priced right. So you have to be able to not cause too much friction. Going back to super, I feel like that's one of it, is not being able, like, I'm able to, like, hey, if they're like, oh yeah, no, this property's for sure $500,000, that's what it's worth right now, like you should buy it at 500. Like, I'm able to kind of swerve, oh, that's awesome, like I that's cool, I agree with you, but for me it just doesn't work there, right? And so I'm able to kind of move around that. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of there's not too much, but I mean price points, there's a lot of friction there that can be there, like with the agents thinking they know more. There's also, you're not directly to the seller, so negotiating with the seller is different. You can use all your tactics, hey, like what exactly is going on, but there's kind of a wall with the agent, like it's go to the agent has to go to the seller. So it's a little bit different there. There's more competition per se, because if they are on market, you're getting a ton of people seeing them already, a ton of calls. They may have investors they already work with. I would say those are a few of the downfalls.
Got you. Thanks for shedding a little light on those. I don't want to talk too negative, but I just want to bring some little reality into the situation, so people don't go into agent outreach, just seeing all the stars and the glitz, because every level has its own challenge. But for us, agent outreach is definitely a great way to acquire properties and to build relationships. So when you started, what were your goals then versus your goals now?
When I started, I was obviously I was direct to seller, so I was trying to do I wanted to have a team under me. Kind of where I really started is like, there's a guy, he paid for all the marketing and he had 4 or 5 cold callers under him, and then he would make percentage of each person's deal. And so that was kind of my goal. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is awesome. This is the best way to do it, right? I didn't know anything else. Now my goal is to close probably about, because at this time, like working with sellers, this was not even, like I didn't think it was even possible, but I want to close like 3 to 5 a month. This is my short-term goals now, like 3 to 5 a month. Continue to build a relationship with agents. I honestly, for now, I don't need really to hire anyone yet, because until I'm probably at that 3 to 5 mark, maybe even more, because it's kind of like agents are on your team and they're doing the outreach. Sure. It's almost like I'm hiring the agents.
Right.
So those are my goals now compared to what they were in the past.
Phenomenal.
So you mentioned your short-term goals though. I mean, what's your long-term goals? I mean, do you want to build this out? Like, I know you said you want to hire people, just now's not the right time, but I mean, do you want to expand out of California? Do you want to stay, do you only want to focus in California? Like, what's that look like for you?
For now, I would say long-term, for sure, I would love to be all over the country. I really love just the Keegley model and what Jamil has done with it. And so building a buyer's list, because I've been partnering with other people and bringing in buyers. So building a huge buyer's list, which is what I'm working on probably in the next few months as we go along here. And then just being able to also, I kind of want to have a YouTube channel or a podcast. I don't know yet how I feel about it, but
what's up then?
Let's go.
And so being able to just to collaborate with other wholesalers and provide value to them, as well as I'm learning and being able to JV with other people. So being that sort of resource is a goal of mine, and helping other people out. And yeah.
Phenomenal.
It's
phenomenal. Awesome. Well, Jaden, brother, I mean, as we land this plane, I really, 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 really want to tell you how grateful we are for your time and for sharing those crazy stories with us, bro. I cannot wait to have you back on to hear updates on, you know, what life is like for you now, because obviously you have an amazing future ahead of you, and you're going to do some amazing things, some more amazing things. But as we leave, I want to ask you kind of a big philosophical question, but as a 20-year-old man who's brought tremendous value into this thing, what is your message to the world? What's the one thing that Jaden, if you had a platform to stand and say this to everyone, it could be real estate related, it doesn't have to be, but what's your message to the world, man? What do you want the world to know?
I would say do what you love. I mean, I know this is basic, but do what you love, what makes you happy in life, and don't quit. Like, don't worry about what other people are saying about you. The moment, I mean, when I was doing this, like for 2 years, almost 2 years straight without making any money, like I was obviously like, people were like, when are you going to get a job? Like, what's going on? Like, when are you going to get a real job? And so I would say, just don't quit. Like, don't worry about what other people are doing. Do what makes you happy. And yeah, it'll pay off in the end.
Phenomenal, brother. How can people, you know, get in touch with you? What markets are you in? How can people work with Jaden Smith?
Yeah, I'm in all of SoCal, really, from LA to San Diego. You can reach me on my personal cell. It's at 909-329-0482. So reach out if you need any help along the way. If you need buyers, if you just have any questions about what to do in certain processes or certain stages that you're in, or how to comp, whatever, you can reach out and I'd love to help you.
Phenomenal, brother. Well, we're going to have all that info in the show notes for you guys. The show notes, the description if you're watching on YouTube. So Jaden, excuse me. Again, brother, thank you so much for your time. We definitely look forward to having you on another episode. And until then, take care, brother.
Yeah, you're a beast, bro.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it for sure. Everything.
Absolutely, guys. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
See you.
What up, guys? Thank you for watching or listening to another episode. And look, here's the deal. If you got value out of today's episode, we kindly ask that you subscribe and like and get this bad boy going. And look, if you're in Florida, we're in Florida. That's our marketplace, and we want to help your deals get to the finish line. So if you got any deals that need help with dispo, send us an email. We're at deals@unwindinvestments.com. You can also submit it via our property submission form online at unwindinvestments.com/deals. And guys, we want you to be the next guest on our show. So get out there and hustle and grind, and let's get to work. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.